With all the ideas of trades surrounding the New York Rangers, guys that are on their team that have been shopped, or might be getting shopped, or will get shopped, who really knows? There are a bunch of names that you could say deserve to be in this conversation. I think the biggest one is Jacob Trouba. Everybody was talking about how he should have gotten traded at the July 1st free agency period, but that unfortunately did not happen. Unfortunately? I don't know. It depends on who you ask, right? But this name that we're going to be talking about in this video is not one of these guys. Nobody is thinking about trading him. Nobody thinks that trading him would be a good idea, although the idea of him actually getting traded isn't the most irrational thing out there. Okay, hear me out. Today we're going over onto Dan Rosen's NHL.com mailbag. This is from 2 days ago on July 23rd, 2024, and the article is titled about Jacob Trouba. I mean, it's all there. Jacob Trouba trade rumors with the Rangers, coping with travel. This is a mailbag, so it's just kind of a Q&A. Dan Rosen, of course, of NHL.com, has been writing these kinds of articles for a long while now. And if you scroll down into the bottom of the piece, past the Jacob Trouba conversation, past the traveling conversations about Dallas and Pittsburgh, and past the Evgeny Kuznetsov conversation, you'll scroll down to the second last question of the piece, which was asked by Joe Kinlock. What are the odds that the New York Rangers and Igor Shesterkin can't come to an agreement on a new contract and he is traded? It seems like he'll want way too much money and term. Now, as we had discussed in a video earlier on in the offseason, Igor Shesterkin's in a spot where he could very well get the most expensive contract a goaltender has ever received in the NHL ever. Like, he is that in control of the situation, he's that good, and the odd part is, if you talk to Rangers fans about Igor Shesterkin, this guy could be in a spot where the money that he gets, whether it's $11 million, $12 million even, it could be worth it. He is that good, after all. He is the best goaltender in the league, many would say. And so if you go over into the idea of the Rangers trading him away because his contract, that in which will be able to be signed soon, is gonna be expensive, the idea itself is not the most irrational thing in the world. Of course, many Rangers fans would kill me just if they saw the thumbnail and the title of this video, but you have to at least consider it, right? Let's go out there and read what Dan Rosen says here on NHL.com. Oh boy, there are no odds of this happening. It's not going to happen. Or, to soften the stance, it would be shocking if it happens. The Rangers will come to an agreement with Shesterkin on a contract that will begin at the start of 2025-2026. He still has 1 year remaining on his current contract. The goalie is New York's best and the most important player of the team. He's 28 years old, arguably the best goalie in the NHL, and has played only 213 regular season NHL games. He has miles to go in his prime years. He knows it, the Rangers know it, he will be paid as such, and he will deserve it. He will not want way too much money in term. He will want what the market dictates, and for him, it's a lot. You know what, I like that. That little point at the end there, it's not like he's going out there and asking for too much money. He's just going to be asking for the appropriate amount of money. And unfortunately for anybody trying to talk about the Rangers saving as much cap dollars as they can, that dollar amount that Igor Shesterkin will rightfully go out there and attain on his next deal will be pretty expensive. But it's not going to be so expensive that it's to the point like, hey, if he was a free agent, he would have gotten less. Like, no, anybody who has the opportunity to sign Igor Shesterkin to a $10, $11.5 million deal, they're probably going to do it. The guy's young enough to still continue being an NHL superstar. He is good enough to continue winning Vezina trophies throughout the remainder of that contract, and he is going to be paid accordingly. Plus the cap's going up, right? Dan Rosen says this as well. When Igor Shesterkin signs his next contract, he will likely be the highest paid goalie in the NHL. He might be waiting on Swayman to sign so he knows those terms in the AAV there. Shesterkin is a more accomplished goalie than Swayman and will want to beat the terms in AAV that the Bruins goalie gets. There's no rush. Shesty has 1 year left in his contract. Ideally, the Rangers get the deal done with him before the season opens, just so there are no questions about his future, but if that doesn't happen, it doesn't mean panic will set in. There is time for the Rangers and Shesterkin to get this done. Now, just in case you needed the scoop here, Shesterkin does expire as a UFA at the end of 24-25, making $5.6 million a year, but there is no way the New York Rangers are going to lose out on this guy. There's no way that he's going to become a free agent. There's no way that he walks. Even if he doesn't sign right away, he'll probably re-sign in New York before July 1st of next year. It's going to happen. They're going to shell out as much money as they need to keep this guy around, even if he will expire as a UFA heading into next offseason. They just cannot afford to let a Johnny Gaudreau situation happen here. And playing hardball, playing penny pinching with a guy who is as important to your team as Igor Shesterkin is, that would be the stupidest move that the New York Rangers could do in this situation. And quite frankly, I'd agree with Dan Rosen here. The Rangers are not going to trade away Shesterkin. It's just not going to happen. But of course, just because it's not going to happen does not mean we're not allowed to make a video about it, right? Let's think about what Shesterkin would get if he was traded. I mean, take a look at his profile, his body of work, his age, his resume. Everything is a positive here. He is smack dab in the middle of his prime. His prime is probably going to continue into his late 20s, early 30s, because goaltenders usually do have a longer half-life than other NHL players. Shesty's going to be so good as the years go on, and with the cap going up too, there's reason to say if he gets $11 million, it's fine in 2028, for example. In 2029, Shesterkin's $11.5 million AAV deal might be seen as a steal because the cap's going to be at $100 million. There's a lot of ammo here for Igor to get as much money as he needs to, but if he gets traded with 1 year remaining on his contract, you gotta ask, what exactly do the Rangers get in return? They would need goaltender support. You can't just be running with your backup the entire time and expect him to carry the load. You'd need to get a goalie back, but Igor Shesterkin versus most starting goalies in the NHL is already wildly more valuable, so what exactly is the price on that? Is it a first-round pick? Is it multiple firsts? Is it a roster top 6 forward, for example, plus a second? Honestly, if the Rangers were thinking about maybe improving their forward core, because they kind of needed to do that a little bit, plus you already have some guys that have been disappointing, to say the least, later on in playoff runs, there are options to go out there and maybe think about some sort of a move, and of course the value that you would receive would be tremendous. But Igor Shesterkin is too damn important for this team. There is no way he is going to get traded, even if it is a reasonable thing to bring up. If the guy goes out there and gets as much money as he can get, then there is understandable concern as to whether or not a goaltender making 8+ digits should be seen as a good thing, but Igor is too damn good. He was the only guy showing up against the Florida Panthers in that third-round series. Speaking of which, the Panthers goaltender Sergei Bobrovsky making his 8-digit contract finally got himself a Stanley Cup ring. So if the Rangers are able to do something similar with Igor, then okay, be my guest. Show the entire world that you got what it takes. And if it costs 10, 11, 12 million bucks a year to keep Igor around to allow him to be on your team when you do that, then okay. As long as you win, right? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this entire Igor Shesterkin trade conversation. Do you think it's a likely scenario to envision for the Rangers? Do you think it's reasonable to talk about? I personally think it's totally fine. I think that the implications of a huge contract like that do warrant the ideas of him potentially getting moved to exist, but I just don't think it's likely. It's not going to happen, and I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comments as to whether or not you agree, disagree, or are anywhere in between. Rangers fans, if there was some sort of a Shesterkin hypothetical trade, what do you think the price is for this guy? How much do you think he fetches in return from any sort of team in need of goaltending? And what would you want the most if you were to trade Shesty? He wants, let's go crazy sicko mode. He wants $15 million, and you're not willing to pay that. What do you trade him for then? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. 9, and bye.